Good morning, everybody. Hey, everybody. Hold on one second here. Let's get to this and get started. Sorry for the delay, but there's way too much going on right now. Obviously. Where are we? Let's do this. I'm just going to start with questions, and we'll go from there. And I'll start with levels, and I'll work it all in because I started. But obviously. Where are you? Let's get rid of that one. And let's do this one. I like this one better. It's cleaner. Sorry, that's a lot of me coming at you in the morning. Oh, boy. All right. Give me 1 second. Where's my hobby? Let's fix this thing up. But we'll start with questions and then we'll go from there because I think a lot of people are going to be really confused about this and what to do. Let's go. What's up, Albino? All right, so let's start with questions. So to me, anything that has a 10% tariff like that, like EWZ, I would be looking at anything like this. Anything that does something like this would be of interest to me, hands down. Like EWZ, EWW, like anything like that. I would look at Argentina. Like I'm surprised Argentina's down, and I'm not really understanding why, unless they're on his special, maybe they're on his special board, and I missed that. But anything that's got 10% tariff, yeah, I'd be all over that. I'd be paying attention to that and going from there. Give me 1 second here, and then we'll go from there. I do think anything that has like a 10% tariff is what I would be looking at. So something like EWZ, yes. Anything like that is what you should be looking at. In my opinion, anything like that is where you should go. I don't think that it's going to be one of those things that's going to be. I don't think that you don't want. Let me rephrase it. Let me say it this way. I don't think you don't want to not look at those. I'll put it that way. What do we got here? So, I mean, the bottom line with it is you came out with one thing, you said one thing, and you did something completely different. You said that you came out and said that, hey, we're going to do 10 or 20% global. And then you said we're going to do reciprocal if they retaliate. And then you came out and said, we're only going to do 10%, but here's my special chart. And then you showed this chart. And then from there, I mean, that was pretty much it. I mean, you can literally, when I saw that chart, I couldn't get out. I did it live. I couldn't get out fast enough. I literally couldn't get out fast enough as soon as I started seeing this, because you're just looking at it and going, this is what's crazy. Like China's not just 34%, it's 20 plus 10. Some people have goods there in China that are over 79%. Like it is crazy what these numbers really are. So it's way higher than anybody had. So like way higher when you do it. So, nobody saw it coming, like literally no one. And it is what it is. I'm sure someone had puts and they did well, but it's just absolutely crazy. And it is what it is. So we deal with it now. I personally think it's going to stick around for a little bit longer than people think. I think apparel is absolutely hosed. I mean, if I had to tell you like one area that I'm short and I'm not even like remotely concerned about it, apparel is absolutely hosed. Anything like that, and any good. I mean, Apple's got some real problems. I would imagine at some point you see some bottom feeding, but you're selling an $1,100 product, and now all of a sudden your product's going to be what? 1,600. Like, how much of that are you going to eat? They have a real issue there. I'd be really careful bottom feeding, and anything like Lulu or any of these companies, man, they're gonna have a really bad day. Anything like that, RH, like anything like these names they're just absolutely toast. So, what you really want to do is you want to see if they can rally it all and then look at putting them on. I'm not shorting directly into this. That's not how I do any of this. I put shorts on last night. In names like Nike and Target because they didn't drop enough. I'm just looking at them now. I did already trim them, but that kind of it just makes so much sense because their costs and margins were razor thin to begin with, and now like they're toast. ON, like there goes their margins. So some of these names are going to get absolute areas again. Some of these names are going to get absolutely just shellacked today. Like just. Days like today, if you're not willing to understand the volatility, just stay out of the way and pick up the pieces later. But I don't know that you're at panic level yet because you had a lot of people. Like if you look at the market and you can see it as well, you had a lot of people that bought. Like a lot. They're like, okay, here it comes. This is our bottom. He's going to say 20%. Oh, no, he said 10%. And that's exactly what happened last night. Yeah, you got to just look at it. I mean, in all its glory. Like, it doesn't really get any cleaner than this. I'm glad we did this. I'm really glad we did this live. So at least people could actually try to profit and save themselves. I think it was really dirty. He did this when the market was closed. Like really dirty. Just a personal opinion. That's not the time to do this. You should have done it when the market was open so people could act on it. Not this, but nevertheless. If I see this here, and this is like, 10%. Oh, we're good. And then he pulls out that graph. And then as soon as he pulled out that graph, everyone's like, wait, what? What's with the graph? And then that was it. We were just done. And people they literally couldn't get out fast enough. So the question really now is like, for me, what I would be wondering is, do you break these levels down here? Is that where this is going? And the pre and the post market levels are really something that you probably are going to, want to pay attention to, and then kind of go from there. I mean, if you break this, if you truly on the NASDAQ, if you break that, like all levels are off, like everything's off the table. If you break that, like it gets ugly. I mean, starts getting like super ugly. If you start cracking this stuff, you start coming down to stuff like that, like 446, and it's very possible. It's very possible today. The easiest way to look at where you could go is to take the measured move of the break of the H, and then just do it that way. So what you're doing is you're taking from here, right, 468 over from wherever that neckline is. From here, we'll say it's 466. So you come from here, and then you come to about 466, and you get about 5%. So that's telling you from the 466 level, measuring, because you take the measured move of the H, and so you just come down 5%. Okay, all right, okay. And so you take the measured move, and you come down to like 5%. And it's telling you, yeah, I mean, you're right around that level. So 444, maybe. I mean, maybe that stops. Like maybe that's where it stops at. you know, they're your levels, and we'll see how that goes. But you had a lot of people that bought into this yesterday, like a lot. They didn't get out of the way into this; they got in it. And I'm not talking about like mom and pop. I'm talking about funds, like they bought yesterday, and they covered shorts or they hedged shorts. And so you got a lot of players in here that have stuff that they're going to unwind. And I think that's really important to get. So, and you can see here's your neckline, and you tried to rally over the neckline and you got completely rejected. I mean, again, it doesn't get more clearer than that, like, then you have a problem. And I think that that's really important to get, like really important to get. But, you know, that's a pickle. You had a neckline, you broke it. And so you look at this and go, okay, well, I'm going to come down to here. So what you probably want to do is just, add an alert there so that, ding, ding, if that goes off. But the question really becomes like, where can you get to? And you start looking at this stuff from like September. I mean, you can get there. These are some of the levels that you could get to fairly easy. For me, it's just, do they just puke everything and say, get me out of the way today? I don't know that. I don't know that that's what you're dealing with. I would watch these levels pretty closely and then kind of go from there. You have to get above your pre-market level before you even think. This is how I'm viewing the day. Like, how do I view today? If you're even thinking about like, oh, I want to buy long term, you have no idea what happens. Do you know that China doesn't retaliate? Like, I think China doesn't retaliate. I don't think anybody retaliates. I think that, I read a lot of research last night. That's why I was late this morning. I read a bunch again. I personally think that I agree with the premise that this is like the peak unless somebody retaliates. So nobody wants to be the poster child that retaliates. I don't think anybody wants to go that route. I think they want to go the route of like, Thailand or some of these other places, or Israel. It's already saying, yeah, we're out. We're tapping out. What do you want us to do? This, great. We're going to do that. And then that's the end of it. So that's what I think they're going to do. And go about it a different way. You can get rid of the tariff. You can call it a duty tax. Like, there's all kinds of stuff that you can do. There's so many workarounds to this, guys. It's not even funny. So all that'll start. There's so many carve outs. Steel's a carve out. So, you just got to start watching that stuff. But there's tons of carve outs to it. So I would, I would keep that in mind as well. If we take a look at the SPY here, I would do the same exact thing. You rally to the neckline, you can see the mark at the low. And then what did you do? From there, for me, looking at this, I just think what you want to do is you want to see some kind of bounce. If you wanted to short, you need some kind of bounce and then go from there. But I don't really see how, you got to put yourself in a position here where, like, if you look at this stuff, right? So I'm going to go from there. So I would watch those levels. But you really got to watch those post-market lows and these pre-market highs, because it tells you where everyone's head is. But that's really how I see it. You have a lot of levels. You got a lot of stuff you're going to have to try to get through today and go from there. So we'll see how it goes. I'm going to take a look at the ES real quick here as well. I might as well do that while we're here. I thought we did this. Maybe we didn't do this yet. But, and again, these are just, if you break this, you're going to have a problem. And you tried already to get over that neckline and you already rejected it. You can already say it this morning. So you probably want to pay attention to that. Let's go take a look at this on an hourly and then go from there. I mean, then you start getting into all this nonsense back here again, right? Okay. And then so come to this and then go from there. I just think you have to be very strategic today. And I think the majority of people are going to short off the open. And I think they're going to get run over. That's kind of where my head is with the market, if I had to tell you where my head is. But I think too many people are, if you're short something and you're not covering it this morning, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Like it's your life's never getting any better than coming in and the Nasdaq's down 4.5% if you're short the Nasdaq. Like that's as good as your day's ever going to go. It just is. I'm sorry. Like even if you got 5.5%, you're gonna risk all that to hold that. Like you're crazy. So it's just poor money management. T-bill auction be good. That's really interesting. That kind of stuff's really interesting to me. Like CoreWeave's down. Okay. Now the Microsoft news, like we're not even talking about the Microsoft news, which is kind of crazy. But like that's not a big deal. Let me just make sure I have this in today. Them cutting more CapEx and data storage. Yeah, that's a problem because that story's just not going away. So people at this point just think Microsoft's out. It also means SoftBank's probably just an outright short because they're top ticking OpenAI, which means he's about ready to get killed again in another project, which is why he probably put the money to work when you really think about it. But anyway, something like this, yeah, I mean, like this has a lot of issues now. They're really behind. It's incredible to me how Microsoft and Apple both missed the AI boom. But this is how some of these companies die eventually. They don't catch that move, and then it kind of goes from there. But these are the levels I would definitely watch for possible supports. I'd love to see it rally to short it, but I don't know if we're going to get that or not, and then we'll go from there. But Microsoft's definitely, that news is huge. Yep. CoreWeave, Dash, would I go near? I mean, I don't know that I even want to play this kind of stuff today. I actually think you have to find the most liquid names, and I think you have to find the names, in my opinion, where you can make the most amount of money. To me, that was shorting Target and Nike last night, which is what I did. But they make the most sense. Anything apparel is just hosed. It just is. So anything like that, any like gadget or widget, like Apple, like look, no one had this in their numbers. So everyone's got to take their numbers down. I don't know. I don't know that, I even want to play with like second tier names today, John, just to be blunt. I think you begin with not food is where I think you begin. So I think out of that list, like Hasbro. Are you not buying the toy for your kid because it went from $24 to $28 or it went from 24 to 30? You're still buying the toy, right? So like these kinds of names, I find this kind of interesting because something like Hasbro, like you're still buying the toy. So I would think names like this, what I would have to do, I don't have enough work done on them. I'd be real interested in what the price earnings and PEG ratios of these things are going to be. That's not where, I don't think that's the problem. I'll tell you where the problem is. The problem is guys like this, where you have razor thin margins, and they're just going to absolutely erode them in the U.S. By what they're doing. And same thing with Target. Target's in way more trouble than Walmart. I shorted this, when it was still in the 100, and I couldn't get over that it was just sitting there. Like it made 0 sense. Like their margin issue is even worse than Walmart's, and nobody was shorting it. It made 0 sense. But do I want to short food? Not really. Like this kind of thing. If you really like things like Costco, I don't know that you're staying down 40 or 50. I don't know that. I don't know that this is staying down $50 or $40 today. Like I might be interested in that and seeing there's a bounce there somewhere. I think the apparel's in trouble. So that means the Walmarts, the Targets, the Nikes, like ON, like, like that kind of stuff. Like, oh, you make your shoes in overseas? Like, I don't know that we really want, I'm not going to get into this. I don't know that we really want to bring those kinds of jobs even back here. For what purpose? So I don't know. It's a whole thing for me. To be honest with you, like I've got mixed feelings about the whole thing, like everybody else. I don't want to get too into it. Probably really shouldn't even say that, but like I don't know. I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a problem for him. Like, and people, someone brought it up yesterday. One of the guys in the room. This is why I love the room. But like, he brought it up yesterday with like Meta. Like, why would Meta get hit? And then I think about all the crap I buy on Instagram. Like, I'm like, oh, I need new T-shirts to go to the gym. Those ads, all that stuff, like drop shipping. You built a whole career on drop shipping. Later, like that's over. That whole third tier business on Amazon's just hosed. So apparel, brother. Coming from heavenly West Virginia. West Virginia is gorgeous. Okay, I'll take that. Morning. Yeah, I mean, I kind of like looking at defense names here. I'm not going to lie. I kind of like looking at defense. I was actually looking at Germany this morning. Like, am I there? Am I finally there yet? Maybe. I think what you have to do is just mark your levels off and then see how those levels hold up today. I'm always very apprehensive to short right off the open. I'm more interested in like, do these names hold the open and which ones do? That's kind of where my head goes with this. Yeah, I'm glad I did that. The more I think about it, I really am glad I did that. That was a huge event. It really was. So I feel very liberated. I can't stand all the winning. No, I think that's the beginning of it on the ad side. What do we got here? I'm not going to be able to edit it. That's for sure. Hi, Maria. Yeah, I think you're there with gold. I think that's an interesting point. I think you're finally there. Now you know the numbers. I do think that comes in. It's going to be interesting because if that starts dropping, I do think that's going to drop, and I think silver is going to drop as well. These things are actually setting up to fall apart. They're probably pretty decent shorts, quite frankly, now. And I think you're going to see some panic there. But that's just kind of where my head is with it. You never know, but usually this is pretty much it. You got your news. I mean, copper was the first, right? I mean, it just kind of looks like it's such an easy short, doesn't it? It just looks so easy. I'd be careful of any carry trades. I think that financials are down because they're just getting out of the market because of the dollar and the uncertainty. I think that people are just blowing out of anything and they're not really thinking yet. They're going to think later today, I think is what's going to happen. That's my sense of it. I could be wrong. No, no one saw this. They saw tariffs, but nobody saw China tariffs. Like it's not even 54% according to experts. It's like 78%. Nobody saw these numbers coming on tariffs. Not even close. I don't think it's a game of chicken. I think they're just going to do what they have to do. Up, Steven. What's going on? Did NVIDIA find support? Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I'd be real careful about saying things have found support before you see the open. I'd be really careful about that. Like there's some levels here that, you could see a 9 handle real quick here, which would be, I mean, if you're long term, I love it. Everyone's long term as long as they go up, and nobody wants to be long term when they go down. So funny. Oh, I'm long term investor until it drops. Then you're like, what do I do with it? So, I mean, that's really the levels that I would be watching on the, on the short side, to see if it breaks. And, you really got to see if you can get above that 107, which is rough around that open and that pre-market high before you do anything. But that's really how I would see that, and where that could get to. So there are definitely areas of interest here. I think it's also very interesting that Tesla, you didn't even take out yesterday's low. So, pardon me, how many names did not take out yesterday's low? You might want to watch, you might want to look for those, especially if we bounce. I mean, you're hardly down. If you really think about it, like you had this, which provided a huge opportunity to get the heck out of it. So, I mean, I've got some calls that are wallpaper this morning, but this allowed me to get out of the way. I think it's more important just to look for the ones that are holding. Like, why? Like, I would think that this would just be a retaliatory nightmare for them. So I'm starting late here, guys. I'm trying to get through all this. Saturday's video will be packed. What do I think? Kroger? I mean, like this kind of stuff, I think you have to start thinking about domestically across the globe. Like who's domestically is going to benefit across the globe? Like German defense contractors, they're only going to do better, right? Like they're only going to do better. So I think when you think about it like that, you're better off. ROI for business, that's going to get that. I do think that that's going to be an issue, but I think that it's bigger than that. But I do agree with that. Well, I mean, I think Bessent looked at it and basically said, we don't really care about cheap goods. Like the American dream is not a cheap TV. It's also not unemployment. So like it's a balancing act. What do you got? I go every morning, 5 a.m. Every weekend, every weekday, every day. Yeah, I mean, I just think you have to think about it that they're going to blow this stuff out, just because they're going to blow it out. It's like someone was asking me yesterday, what do I do with Hood? Like, I don't know what to tell you. It's a big retail name. So like they're going to hammer it. But do you get out of Hood here? I don't know. Do I have to sell JP Morgan today? Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like if I was do I have to sell it? Like, why do you own it? Where's your stop? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to think all this stuff through, guys. Like, there's not an easy answer to this. You're walking into down 4%, and all the hoople heads are like, oh, it's time to short. Like, no, Rocky, the time to short was last night. Now you're just going to be someone's, cannon fodder this morning. You're going to short a market down 4.5%, or you're not going to cover your short down 4.5%. See, whenever you have like second and third standard deviation moves and you don't act on them and you're like, oh no, this one's going to be big. This is a huge move to the downside. Can it get worse? Yeah. But you usually have some kind of a reversion to a mean. So like you could bounce up 2% and all your puts get cut, by 60% or greater. And then it roll back down. You could take out the lows, and then those puts don't even have the same value anymore because the gamma. So if you're short, congrats. But no one's going to tell you when to ring a bell, but to sell. But ding ding. The laws of Mama will be avenged. Oh, that's good. We got that going for us too. DraftKings, not really. Maybe disposable income on DraftKings. Place more winning. We can't take all the winning. I tell you the two places I think benefit the most from this. I think Mexico and Canada benefit the most. That's my opinion of it. I'm surprised Canada is not up more, but I think Mexico benefits from this greatly. I think some of that stuff is probably a home run. Like I was looking at MO and PM last night. They got smoked last night, and I was looking at some of this stuff going, man, do I buy it or I just come in? Maybe it's the pack of a cigarette. But I don't know, man. They got smoked. I was thinking about them yesterday. American dream is diabetes. I snorted. Sorry. Oh, I definitely had longs on into it. Absolutely. I mean, look, I watch Institutional Flow. They were buying 4-1 into it. So I'm like, okay, it's going to be 20% and they're going to rally. And then he pulled out a special board. Next time anyone knows the special board's coming out, just let me know. I'd really appreciate that. I think you can see a contorted move down during the day, but I think you have to digest the fact that you're down 4.5%. And a lot of institutions just don't puke. So they'll go out during the day and say, oh, here's 10,000 or 100,000 shares. Get me out of Apple. And, just get me as close to VWAP as possible. That's not who sells off the open. So you got to be careful of that. No, Taiwan will come around. Makes sense, Steve. What's up, Tom? Yeah, I mean, I think that you're taking a hit like everybody else, but I don't know. I mean, I would just watch the low of that Doge. Like, what's that? 32.14. You're kind of holding that, aren't you? But just watch that. I wouldn't be crazy about the fact that I took out the post markets. So, yeah, I mean, if I'm short, I'm getting out of the way. So, yeah, no problem. No, I'm sorry I started late, but there's just so much information. The other thing is, like, you have to think about it. Like, you're going to have statements all day today. VW just issued one. Get ready for an import tax on their cars. That's not retaliatory. They're just passing it through. So I am going to have to jump here because I got a lot going on. I'll try to cover as much as I can of it tonight. The majority of it, I'll make sure that I go over on Saturday in great detail. We'll have more by Saturday, but like apparel. Like if you're saying, what do I short? I don't think it's shorting Meta down 40. I don't think that is like the most, best use of, if you take a look at, well, it's not even down 40, but like, I don't think that's the best use of cash. It's up to do whatever you want. But like, I think the best use of cash is like looking for retailers to bounce and understanding they're the ones that are going to be hit. But, some of these names you start looking at and going like, where are you going? Does Google trade at 15 times earnings? some of these names are fairly interesting. So, all right, man, I got to jump. Trade to win, guys.